Keir Starmer's Labour government has been criticised for its handling of the UK economy, with concerns over stagnation and lack of growth since Labour took office. Recently, Starmer unveiled an AI action plan designed to position the UK as a leader in artificial intelligence and boost economic development. However, during his speech, he faced tough questions about the country's economic state. Despite his efforts, many viewers were left unconvinced by his government's plans. Watch the clip to see the exchange.
You're saying today full steam ahead. I wonder what you would say directly to those who were worried, who were perhaps worried about their data, worried about their jobs, worried about computers taking a decision that perhaps a human being should. And on the broader question of the economy, the country is in a hole economically. Bluntly, the government looks to be in a hole economically. How much and how soon a difference can AI realistically make here? Are we looking increasingly inevitably at further government spending cuts?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. I think we have to look at this through the lens of opportunity. So when it comes to jobs, the question isn't the loss of jobs, it's the changing jobs. So for, to take an example, for a doctor that spends less time on the notes, that doctor can spend more time on the patient. So it will change jobs, but it'll change them for the better. Same for teachers with the preparation of lessons. And that will be the story behind this, change jobs so that actually we can get on with more of the human element to some extent. On the data, look, it is really important. Some of the brilliant breakthroughs have been because we've been able to use the data that's available in this country. So again, we look at this through the lens of opportunity. Obviously, we need to stay in control of the data, and we will stay in control of the data. But it's very important, whether it's jobs or data, to see these as great opportunities going forward. On the question of the economy, and for that matter, public services, yes, we've inherited a real mess in the economy by the last government. Same with public services. We've got to turn it around. AI will help us with that, because that allows us to increase productivity hugely, to do things differently, to provide a better economy that works in a different way in the future, and the same with public services. So again, it's a huge opportunity. I would argue that we would do it in any event, whatever the state of the economy and public services, because it's obviously the right direction to go in, but it's doubly necessary because of the mess we've inherited from the last government. So we will use it to turn around the economy, use it to turn around our public services. Thank you very much, Chris.
Look, PM, UK borrowing costs are at the highest since the financial crisis. Investors are worried about massive borrowing and flat growth. It leaves you in a bit of a pickle because you've predicated your decade of national renewal on economic growth that isn't happening. How is it changing your calculations on accelerating AI? And just to pick up on Chris's point, do you accept that in the meantime you will have to implement some spending cuts in the coming year? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beth. The number one mission of this government is economic growth. And that was run through the budget. But there's much more that we're doing on economic growth, pulling those levers of change. So, for example, and I'll come to AI, your specific question, but changing the planning regime so that we can get stuff built more quickly, whether that's housing or infrastructure. Making sure that we're changing the way we supply our energy, which has been an inhibitor of growth for far, far too long. Putting in place a really strong industrial strategy, which will have AI at its heart. So all of these things, and now AI on top of that, are all there to generate and make sure that we promote the growth that we desperately need in our economy. My big criticism of the last government over 14 years is that we had flat growth, and that's why we're taking all these measures to drive growth in our economy. And some of these measures, necessarily planning, energy, industrial strategy, they're all measures that we're taking in addition to everything that we've done in the budget in relation to this. So that's how I see AI powering us forward in that regard. And I think it can do so quickly. If there's one thing I think we all need to be clear about with AI, is it's going to change things quicker than we think. Most people who only a few years ago were saying it'd probably take a decade before AI makes the sort of change that's been talked about, are now saying, no, more like 5 years, even 4 or 3. So AI is changing things very, very fast. And that's why we need to create the conditions so that this country can be at the forefront of that. I mean, Beth, the final thing on that, which is really important, is that we're really well placed for this. We're already in the top 3 or 4 in the world when it comes to AI. So this isn't a race where all countries of the world are sort of starting on the same line today. We're already well ahead in relation to that. So that's the way in which I see this helping us with the essential focus on growing the economy. Thank you.
Artificial intelligence looks set to be the industrial revolution of our lifetimes, possibly longer than that. Sam Altman is correct. This is going to be an enormously important year, 2025. He believes we're going to see artificial general intelligence this year. Now, in all industrial revolutions of this magnitude, there are shocks to the labour market. Some people's pay is flattened, other people lose their jobs. So what are you planning to do to protect the livelihoods of individuals, even if it seems highly likely artificial intelligence grows the economy very significantly? Growth does not necessarily mean that individuals' living standards will rise. And then separately, you haven't actually addressed either Chris's or Beth's point. If artificial intelligence delivers the growth we require, that will happen over time. But the interest rates the government pays have risen again today. And on your fiscal rules, you've run out of money. So what are you going to do to fill that hole?
Robert, on the jobs, go back to the point I made about changing the nature of jobs, actually freeing people up to do other things. That's what all industrial revolutions do in the end, but this one probably more than most and quicker than most, changing the nature of jobs. Also job creation, the 1,000 new jobs in Liverpool, the 12,000 new jobs that I just announced in this speech here today, jobs that weren't there before in data centres, etc. So we are absolutely making sure that we're focused on working people and on jobs and what happens to them. And I think that is a difference between the approach that, let's say, the last government took and this government, which is answering the question, how does this impact on people's lives across the board? On the question of the economy more generally, look, it is important that I'm very clear that growth is our number one priority and mission. We've said that throughout, and all of the other work we're doing ladders up to this. So whether it's the work on AI, whether it's the work I was announcing last week on the NHS, all of that ladders up to growth. We do have in place fiscal rules, which we will absolutely stick to, because they're necessary to provide the stability that we want, and of course reform. And that is why, whether it's the economy or public services, I've always said that that is the lever that hasn't been pulled enough, in my view. We need to pull hard and quickly, and putting that in place. And so for example, last week I was announcing on the NHS how we're going to drive up our work to make sure the waiting lists come down. That means more people back in work. It's why we're doing all the work that we are to make sure that our job centres are transformed so people are back into work. All of these measures are there to ensure we've got the economic growth that we need. But the stability, the rock, the foundation is those fiscal rules, which we will absolutely be keeping to. Thank you.
Do you think Labour has already failed to improve the country's economy? Please like this video if you agree and comment down your thoughts.